All right. Hey, everybody. This is Nathan Blaylock, and I was asked to give a couple tips on having a UX design portfolio. So I'll try to keep this pretty short, but I think it's really important for people who want to go into the design industry to have a portfolio, especially an active one that they keep up to date, because you never know when you're actually going to need that portfolio to show off to other people. And before I move on too far, I'll just let you know that there's no real one way to have a good portfolio. In my opinion, I think the best portfolio is the one that will get you your dream job. So, depending on what your job is, kind of what that entails will depend on how you put together your portfolio. So, let's go over in short what a portfolio is. So, a portfolio is an indication of your skill. So, it's just a way that people who don't know you, who haven't worked with you, can briefly glance over some of your past work and get an idea for how you work, what you're able to do, and what tools that you know how to use. So I think a portfolio is really important, and you really just want to show them your best work in that portfolio. All right, and so I I came up with 5 tips. I've read blogs. I've been kind of putting together portfolios for a couple years actually, and some things I found that have helped me, especially in like job interviews, are kind of fall under these 5 categories. So the first one is just targeting the right audience, and we're going to get into all of these in detail. Second one is host your portfolio online, so just in a format that people can access it anywhere in the world. Another thing is some things that you need to include are your skills, like the tools that you know, projects, especially the ones that you're very proud of and that have made a big impact, and of course your resume. It's just one of those other things that you need on there. The fourth tip is design for visual impact and make it easy to follow. And the fifth one is just show courage that that you can fail and you know how to recover from that failure. And we'll go over each of these in detail. So first off, targeting the right audience. So as a designer, you should kind of have an idea on how to do this. You know, we as designers look for the target user, and we design to kind of shape around that user. Who's actually going to be using our product kind of follows along with a portfolio with who's actually going to be looking at my portfolio. And some people don't really understand this, but it's not always designers that look at the portfolio. It's oftentimes it's recruiters. So people who are not designers, but kind of have an idea for what designers are looking for. Recruiters' job is to hire people from all different types of fields. And so their eyes are often the first ones that are going to be looking at your portfolio, and as well as designers, obviously, but a lot of times they're recruiters. And so that's something that you shouldn't forget. And these recruiters go through tons of applications all the time. And so a lot of times you really only have like 5 seconds to 60 seconds to make that first impression. And if they don't like it, then they'll toss it to the side. And if they do like it, they'll probably pass it on to the designers. So that's one thing to always consider when you're putting together your portfolio. And, just kind of put yourself in their shoes, kind of think, what do they want to see? What would impress them more than anything? So maybe something's really impressive to you or to your family, but it's not really impressive to the recruiters. So that's the kind of information that you want to be putting on your portfolio. So that's the first tip. The second tip is hosting your portfolio online. Okay, so some people I feel like get a little scared of doing this because they're not web developers. They don't know how to make a website. But it's really important to have this online, or at least in some sort of format where they can easily access your portfolio. A lot of free sites are available. My first portfolio was a Weebly website, and I think that did the job just as well as making it from scratch. Wix also has free websites. WordPress, like there's so many other websites where you can make a portfolio online. It's very easy to do. The only catch with these free websites is that, for example, my first website was ngblaylock.weebly.com. So you just had that little .weebly.com tacked on the end of it. But other than that, I mean, it worked out really well for what I needed. Another thing that I've seen before is you can make an interactive PDF where you click links and it'll take you to different spots on the PDF. If you're more comfortable with that, that's fine. you're going to have to find a way for that to be easily accessed by these recruiters and these designers if you're applying for a job. So just find a way that makes it easy for people to get to, and make sure that they're able to open it up, that they don't need any special software for it. So the third skill has a couple parts to it. It gets pretty deep, and we're not going to go very deep into it, but I think this is just a very good overview of what you need to include in your portfolio. So first off, you should always show that what you can do, show the tools that you're able to use, and how you integrate that into your product. Some ideas for tools that you can include is, the Adobe Creative Suite. I think that's a very marketable tool. I've seen that on many designer applications. Just they want you to know, in general, the Adobe Creative Suite. And there's dozens of tools, and I don't know anybody that knows all of them. Another one is information architecture tools. We've gone over this in class. I mean, a lot of you have used Lucidcharts, so you can put something like that in there. Just be able to demonstrate that you know how to use those tools. I put whiteboarding included, and that kind of falls under the rest of these as well, because if you know how to whiteboard, I think that's a very good skill in and of itself. It doesn't necessarily have to be something technical or something that you need to pay for. Simple tools are very helpful in all these things. So just being able to demonstrate that you can do that is great. Wireframe and mockup tools, those are also fantastic. Prototyping tools, just being able to demonstrate that you can prototype something. I've seen job applications where they want you to have a background with animation. If you know any animation of any sort, you can put that tool on there. But just be able to include that you know certain skills that will help you accomplish the goals for the product. All right. So the second part to this third tip is include your projects. And a lot of you who are just starting out, include school projects. I wouldn't recommend, labeling it as this was a school project, because they don't really like that. But you can include those. Another thing that you can do is also just make up a project. It's not very hard to come up with a UX design project, because there's just so much bad UX out there. I have probably a dozen ideas for things that I could do on the side if I can find the time to do it. But just be able to make sure that you can show that you can use these tools and use them in a practical setting. Things that you should always include, and I think I'm going to emphasize these ones, is include how you got from point A to point B. Starting off with the problem, let them know what problem you're solving, show them your process, how you work with a team, different types of tools that you used, how you learned from different situations, the adjustments that you had to make. There's so many things, or so many steps that go into making your project, and they want to see how you got from point A to point B. So that middle part is very important. And the third point on that is show you the final outcome. Let them know the results, like what was actually achieved by the project that you made. If it was just a project that you did on the side, you can probably just say you don't really know the results, but what you could expect to find from a project like that. So it's just a very important part of something to include in a portfolio. I was actually in a job interview once where they asked me about a certain piece, and all I had on there was just the final outcome. I didn't have the process of it, and he asked me to kind of go over the project. And I started going over like little technical things like, oh, and I use this tool in Photoshop and blah, blah, blah. And, it wasn't very impressive. And after the interview, he said something along the lines of, I want to see your process. I want to see how you got to this point, like where you started from. I don't care so much how it looks. I just want to know how you work. So that's something really important to include when you're including projects in your portfolio. Make sure you clearly let them know how you work. It's pretty simple just to say it, but it takes a little bit of effort. It takes a little bit of drafting and revisions, but let them know how you work. Another thing is use screenshots, use pictures, anything visual that will help make your point. So these projects are probably the key to your portfolio. And another thing, I didn't write this on here, but put quality over quantity. A lot of people online suggest using about 2 to 3 of your best projects. And, I think that's fair to say because these recruiters and designers, they're busy people. They don't want to go through 20 different projects that you've worked on. But make sure they're really good and make sure that you keep them up to date. Make sure that your best ones are the ones up there. So the last thing that you need to make sure that you include is your resume. And I think this one would be pretty easy. If you have a fantastic resume already, just transfer it up online. And that should be, it should be very simple that way. Something that's really helps with your online portfolio is to be able to link to different social media. So example like LinkedIn, some people have a Behance account or a Dribbble account. So all of these things can kind of help support your portfolio in a way. So those things are parts that you can consider including in your resume or on your portfolio in general. Don't connect anything that would embarrass you. I think this one is pretty obvious. Yeah, I guess I don't really need to go into detail about that. So you can also attend resume critiques or just kind of review sessions over your resume. And I know that USU offers free resume help to even non-USU students. So if you need help with your resume or making sure that it's working right and it sounds right, you can go to Career Services at USU and they'll help you get that. They'll help you get that working much better. So the next tip that I have is just design for visual impact. And what I mean by this is just that as designers, we understand that the aesthetics of everything isn't the most important, but it also should not be ignored. We need to remember that visually clean, visually attractive looking pages result in a better user experience in general. And so even though it's not everything, it is important to make sure it is clean and consistent. And another thing that you can do on there is just do user tests. Make sure that people can actually follow where you're going on these, just kind of in your story that you're trying to tell. And the last point I wanted to make is don't be afraid to kind of let these recruiters or designers know that you fail sometimes. I think that's something that makes us human, and it makes us makes people realize that even though we're not perfect at it, we're still very good designers. Although the disclaimer on that one is that you don't want to just say, yeah, and I failed at this, because that sounds bad. What you should always do whenever you talk about something that you failed at is always compensate for it. Say how that improved the product overall and how you're able to deal with failure in general. So don't be afraid of talking about some failures that you have, but always be sure to compensate for it. All right, so those were my tips. A couple of examples for portfolios that you can look at. I have one, it's just nathanblaylock.com. I worked on it about a year ago, and to be honest, it's not all the way up to date. So that's one of those things I plan on doing over Christmas break. Another one that I like is Erica Ferment, Edmund Yu, and Simon Pan. These ones were actually recommended to me by other UX designers. And I think they make a good portfolio, and you're going to see that there are a lot of differences between the portfolios themselves. So just go in, kind of pick through what you like about some, what you don't like about others. Always make sure that you're designing your portfolio for the recruiters and for the designers. And that's pretty much it. Good luck on your portfolios if you're going to make one. If you're not planning on doing it, I would recommend it. If for anything else, it's just a way for you to keep your information organized. So Hopefully you found this helpful, and let me know if you have any questions. My email is just nathan.blaylock@usu.edu. And just let me know if you want me to look over a portfolio. That's fine. And good luck on it.